Welcome to Terra Talks, where we talk about all things real estate. In each episode, we'll tackle current trends and topics of interest, both locally and regionally. However or wherever you decide to tune in, you're not going to want to miss this.
Where do we would start? Hi, Rachel. Hi, Rosey. So we're going to do a podcast today, and it is called Bricks, Mortar, and
Mayhem.
yeah, and actually there's no sarcasm in the mayhem. So as professional seasoned real estate agents, we both own properties. Rosey just purchased her first property.
There we go.
And we just kind of want to run through things that, the hurdles that come up, how the process went, and any insights we can give to our listeners.
Right. So just for background, in case you don't know, I'm a real estate agent with Terra Caribbean, and Rachel is the head of brokerage for Terra Caribbean, Terra Luxury. So when we say we are seasoned real estate agents, we were all seasoned.
So like KFC. 11 spices. 11 herbs and spices.
So we both had two very different objectives when we decided that we wanted to buy. Rachel wanted to buy a home and I wanted to buy an investment. And whilst it's still purchases, they're two very different tasks that we took on. So we're going to run through both of those because I think those are the major requirements that we get from purchasers when they come to us, either a family home or an investment. Those are the main two, right?
That's right. Yeah. So
should I start? I mean, take it away. Hers is good.
No, so it's not my first purchase. I did purchase a home for my daughter. I think that was in 2019. I then purchased a piece of land to do an investment or to build on, which I still have not started because life gets in the way. And then most recently, I was in a situation where I needed to buy something for my family, and my family being myself and my daughter, and I could not find anything. And I know that that's a struggle that a lot of people have out there. I have exceedingly high expectations because of the properties that I see. And I have to also reel that back in because I don't want to say I have mobby pockets, but, my taste is very champagne. And what I wanted to get was not really realistic. So I manage a team of 18 agents, and I could not find anything that I liked. I found one thing, it kind of fell apart. And I kind of, I don't know, sarcastically, because I'm not mean, told Rosey, what kind of agent are you? You still haven't found me a house. She took high offense to because she had been sending me a property over and over, and I kept on ignoring her. So when your agent sends you something more than once, it's probably for a good reason. I told her, I don't like that house. That house is real yellow. And she just told me she was going to club me over the head and drag me to the house if I didn't get in my car and go and see it.
There you go.
And honestly, it was fantastic. And I thank her to this day for it.
You're welcome. So she's not going to tell you, but I also had to do that for rentals for her as well. So sometimes your agent may know exactly what you're looking for. And even when you just say, that's not for me, maybe if you trust them and hopefully you do trust your agent, just give them a shot and go and have a look. You might be very surprised.
Very surprised.
Yeah, Rachel.
So what about you, Rosey?
So for me, I don't know about Rachel. I definitely don't have the champagne taste that she has. Like, I drink white rose wine. I'm a very simple person. But I did realize that, I've been doing this and I do need to practice what I preach because I advise my clients every single day on investment properties. So something came in front of me and it was something I definitely could not deny. And I thought, it was very nerve-wracking, like, should I take the plunge? And why is it so hard to decide? And I just kind of took a step back and realized, your clients trust you to do this every single day. Why don't you trust yourself to do this in a building that you've sold in already? So it really was kind of a no-brainer for me to go ahead and jump in. But to get the process started, it was not a cash purchase. Yours was mortgage as well.
Yep.
And it's a process, right? You need to definitely pre-approve yourself with a financing institution as soon as possible. Just because you qualify for so much higher than maybe what a property that you like might be on for does not mean that you need to go and spend X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars. What I purchased was definitely below what I qualified for, and I was very cognizant of that. Like, should I do more and perhaps renovate more? There were so many variables, but for me, the right opportunity came at the right time. And because I was pre-approved, I was able to act quickly on it.
And I would say the same thing for me. Before I started the process, I took every good real estate agent's advice and I got pre-approved. I decided to get pre-approved by 3 different banks because I wanted it to be competitive and I wanted to get the best interest and the best deal possible for me. And it is wildly different in terms of what I was qualified for from each bank, which is something that, I guess you need to take into consideration. Different banks take different things into consideration when it comes to your income, and obviously any assets that you own, etc. So for me, I'm glad I did that. I had a lot of hurdles along the way, but the bank I went with in the end, which was Republic Bank and Sonia Stewart, who I have to call out as being a fantastic mortgage officer. She did make it very simple for me. And she was always there at the end of the phone, and she would show up at my house to, throughout the process as well too. Talk about committed. And I think that's also a good thing to know is that the banks that you choose, and I'm not saying because I do have excellent relationships with Scotia and with RBC and with CIBC, etc. And I know that if I'd gone with them, I'm sure that the people in there that I know and they're really good mortgage officers throughout would give you excellent service. But it's finding a mortgage officer that works well with you, that's responsive to you, and that will go the extra mile to try and get everything done in a timely manner, because things can hold up between the mortgage process, the offer process, the legal process. It can be drawn out. So it's most important to align yourself with the right attorney, the right financial institution, and the right agent to get things done.
Correct. So my process was a little different, but I did pre-approve with a couple of banks. And I definitely challenged the banks to see who would give me the best offer as well. But I also actually really wasn't that different then. I also went with Republic Bank. So, but they were offering a fantastic offer at the time that, again, something that it just everything kind of aligned. It could not turn down what Republic Bank eventually offered in the end. And I went with them. And I want to say Solange Bruce was fantastic. She set me up with her team. Solange called me on Sundays, Saturday evenings, before 6 a.m. if she needed to. So, it's having somebody that's committed, and that really makes a huge difference in your process. The legal process to me was pretty smooth as well. I worked with an attorney who I would say is hungry at it, and he just wants to get a job done. So thank you so much, Shema, from Mosley Passat. He was really excellent with me, and really held my hand along the way. And what I think Rachel and I will say is what we advise our clients is you need to be involved in the process. And I know sometimes you have your life going on and you may just say, oh, this will just trickle along and it'll happen. No. Call your agent, call your attorney, call your bank once a week. See what's going on, because if you don't, you will be left behind. Not Shema, but I'm just saying, you will be left behind if you're not on top of it. And it may not be something on your end, it may be something on the vendor's end that needs to be followed up on. And once you keep top of mind for everybody, things will move forward.
For sure. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I went the route of using an attorney that I know really well, which is Zarina Khan, for Prospect Chambers, and her team, again, fantastic. And luckily for me, they also represent Republic Bank. So another good savings when you are dealing with a financial institution for your purchase is that you have to pay your bank's legal fees and your legal fees. If you use the same firm, you do get a discounted rate on one of those fees. So that's a good savings and something to know. Sometimes that's why we have a lot of clients that they wait for their loan to get approved, find out who the attorney is if they don't get them in advance, and then seek to see if they can act on both sides of the transaction for them. For me, Zarina's team, they called me on holidays anytime, whenever we needed anything to be done, it was done. And for me, the process was as seamless as it could be.
Yeah. How long did it take for you to close your sale?
I think overall it was a mortgage transaction. it could have been done within 3 months. However, I asked for a delay on my closing because I had a very unique situation where the person I was buying from was building a house next door to me. And I didn't want to move in, start construction. He then start construction. And then I have all the noise of him doing the excavation, and it's a lot of rock in that area. So we set a delay closing for October, and we hit the closing for sure. But yeah, it could have been done a lot faster. It's just that I asked for delay closing, and it's also good. Like if you realize sometimes every transaction is unique, and there are situations where things like that happen. So it's good to ask your agent if your objectives are to renovate, and you think you're going to renovate in 3 months, and I'm going to laugh at that and I'll tell you later. Luckily for me, by the time, like right now, I'm still going through the process, and the guy has almost completed his property, and I'm still renovating. Anyway.
You do it. Mine took 5 months. And honestly, it could have been a little bit quicker. There were 1 or 2 delays, not on my end, but again, it was always just keeping in touch every week, top of mind, and pushing it forward. So that's a key piece of advice. And it's either you do that yourself or you ask your agent to follow up. But every week, you're not going to get things done unless you are the tick.
Correct. If somebody
backside.
So somebody asks you for something, you send it back within the minute. Like you don't wait 2 days, because 2 days later they're on to something else. Anytime if the bank asks me, if my attorney asks me for anything, they would get it back immediately.
Yeah, we should like stop, rock and roll in the office, but anyway,
it's fine. It's always good to do that.
So your sale closed, you renovated. My sale closed, I went on IKEA. So hers was a little bit more intense than mine. Mine was just, I just needed some lipstick on it, and it was a rental property. So it was just for me to order the furniture, do a little painting. Do I want to do renovations down the line? Yeah, but I budgeted things out, right? So I'm going to do that when I know I can afford it properly. But Rachel had a different experience where she renovated, and your process took how long?
So before we jump into the mayhem part of this podcast, let's just pause for a second. When you were considering purchasing an investment property, what were the key things you were looking for?
I just jumped straight over that.
Yeah, you did.
So I needed to know my running costs. So what am I going to spend on electricity every month? You're renting out. People do not care about ACs. They're going to leave their ACs running, right? So you need to take into consideration, you're probably going to have high electricity costs. What are your water costs? What's a decent internet package that people can work remotely using? And what are your monthly fees? I bought into a development, so I did have monthly fees, and it's going to vary from development to development based on the amount of units there, the amenities that they have on site, and a lot of different variables, but you really need to take into consideration what your expenses are. So I needed to factor in my expenses, and then I needed to factor in, okay, this is what I'm going to need to spend every month on top of my mortgage and my monthly fees and everything. And then what am I going to be able to make every month? Once what you make surpasses what you're spending, and you have a return of, I would say a good return is over 3-4%.
I mean, which is really good. I mean, yeah, this is predominantly in a net cash is 2 to 4%, 2 to 5%, but 5 is more if you're reaching on the beach. But we're gonna get there. But I definitely am not there right now, but we're gonna get there. So once your return is over 3-4%, it is a safe investment. You're gonna cover your costs. You're gonna have an asset in your name, and you're gonna be able to everything on top of what you make. Everything on top of what your expenses are, what you make, is gonna be gravy, right? Sometimes it's easier to start with a safe investment, something that that's very familiar, so people may feel more comfortable to buy into some of the older properties that have that rental history, that have that familiarity of the area, whereas some people may be a little hesitant to purchase into newer developments. That might be for the more savvy investor. So it really is based on what you feel comfortable with. For me, it was, I'm familiar with this, I sold this, I have clients that are super happy with that investment, so why don't I just jump in? Right, there. So should we jump to mayhem? So because I had an extended period of time in which I was going to to close the sale, I needed to start making plans for the renovation. So from the time I agreed the sale, I brought up a landscape architect and an interior designer who also has architectural skills, which is Chantal Wood. And for the exterior, I use Carolyn Tomlin. So an all-girl team, real bosses. So brought them up and had them look at the space, come up with concepts. Obviously, with any service provider, you get quotations in advance for them for what the cost of their service is going to be. And for me, it depends on what you're looking to do. But if you're looking to do a substantial renovation, it's important to have qualified service providers and people like that are multi-talented and have great vision to bring it together. They also have experience with contractors. For landscape architects, they have a lot of experience with that as well too. So it's good to have really qualified people on your side, because there are things that I know for me. I'm a great real estate agent. I'm not an architect. I am not an interior designer. I couldn't tell you what color to put where. And a lot of people think that they can do, like, we have clients that think they can be real estate agents. At the end of the day, you hire who's a professional in it because they've studied that. They've been to school for 3 or 4 years for that. We have not. So long answer, but yeah, I went ahead with the process. I got them to give me quotations and we started with the plans. I had everything all wrapped up in a bow and we went out to tender. We brought in, I think they brought in 2 contractors on either side to quote on it. And again, the varying levels of what these quotations came in were wild. Again, I mean, if somebody, we could just throw a number out. If someone was 160,000, the other person was 300,000. I experienced that in my last property that I bought. So we had to go through. I then was not thrilled with what I saw because there was such a big disparity that I got 3 more contractors to quote on the job. And I know that's a lot. But luckily, when you have a good architect on either side, the landscape and the internal, they provide a bill of quantities. So it makes it a lot easier for a contractor to quote because they have all the information in front of them. It is another thing when you go out to a contractor and you want them to quote on your property and you bring them and you say, I want to change this, this, and this, and then you don't use them. They have to go and then figure out how to do the cost for all of those things. So you could tell why contractors sometimes might be a bit reticent to go and willingly give quotes all the time because, sometimes we don't have very tight circles around what we actually need. So that's why going the architect route, bill of quantities, this is what we need. We know the cost of the tiles, we know everything, and it made the process a lot easier. I did make a decision on a contractor in the end, and I went with them because I knew them and because of the time frame. And it was supposed to be a month's job. And I mean, my dad's an architect. Let me say my dad, our dad, it's her sisters. But he's an architect and I've been on construction sites since I could walk. And so I know when a contractor, and with all due respect, I have friends that are contractors, it is what it is. Sometimes it takes a little longer than they say. So I was supposed to move in December the 20th. And I gave notice to leave my apartment. When I was told December 20th, they said I'll move out by February 1st. Mm-hmm. Right? I didn't tell the contractor that because you don't also want to say, oh, you have time. Mm-hmm. Well, let's just say I moved in March. Actually moved in March. I had a couple of different moves. Needless to say, we're now in June, May.
End of May.
Oh my God. I know. We're in the end of May and the interior works is still snagging issues going on. So you have to have a lot of patience. You have to choose the right contractor. You have to realize when things are unrealistic and ask questions about it and don't necessarily just trust, well, I know this person and I like them. Mm-hmm. We're going to get this done quickly. It does not always work out like that. And people do want to do right by you and they want to surpass your expectations. But I'm a firm believer in under-promising and over-delivering.
Yeah.
Did I say that right? Yes, I think I did. But that is what I believe.
Yes, you did.
So yeah, it's been a challenge. But I would say for my exteriors, I end up using a different contractor. And while it is a bit going a bit beyond the schedule that we had agreed. The workmanship is fantastic.
Yeah.
The exteriors are looking great, and I just can't wait to put in a garden and get. We have also the
No circle yellow.
yeah, the house, yeah. The yellow is done. That was the first thing to go. Actually, no, we had to live with the yellow for a while, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, what about you?
Well, yeah, my process was absolutely nothing like that. So, but I did live through Rachel's process, so it was good to see. It was so good.
Chris, yeah, I got rid of my Garmin watch because it kept on telling me I was stressed. I'm like, I don't need to hear that from you. I know I'm stressed.
I know. But Rachel's process and my process is totally different. But like that's why I thought it was important to bring this up because each transaction, even if it is somebody else is buying a family home and going to be doing renovations, each transaction is so different, and we see that. But it's good to experience it from the other side. You know, whilst we do this every day for a living, it's good to be on the back end of things. And you know, just to see what everybody goes through as well. Because as much as we hear our clients telling us what's going on, the good, the bad, the ugly, the mayhem, you know, being able to relate to them on a deeper level, I think helps a lot as well.
Of course.
Yeah. So for me, the only major different thing I had to do than you, well, actually, no, you definitely would have had to think about your budget a good couple of times. For me, what I would say as an investment property, what I made sure to do, which I think my banker advised me a bit, was you don't know when you're going to have a rainy day, right? So you want to make sure that in your account that you're going to be drawing down on for your mortgage to have a buffer. You don't know if you're going to run into anything crazy like COVID, you know, when things went belly up.
We don't talk about it.
We don't talk about those bad
here.
but you know, you don't know what the future is going to hold. And you do not want to be strapped down by your investment either. Your investment should not be a chain around your neck saying that, you know, you have to do this every month and you're concerned about it. When you invest in a property, you should feel comfortable enough that it's going to, one, make you money, and if you are having a slow month, you're going to be able to still comfortably pay that off without feeling that pinch. So what I personally did was I made sure and put a certain amount in there that if I had 1 or 2 bad months, that I would be okay. And that took into consideration my running costs and my monthly mortgage payment. So that's my piece of advice if you are doing investments. Rachel's piece of advice is...
Well, I had a lot of advice, but I guess one thing that I did take into consideration was, as you said, it was a renovation cost. But the one thing I did wrong, and I should have done from the start, but I guess at some point I was just rushing and I said, you know, I can afford to do this on my own. But in retrospect, I said after the fact, once I started to get all the quotations in and my visions got a lot bigger than my pockets, that I probably need a loan for this renovation. Champagne. I'm going to be drinking Prosecco for the rest of my life. Yes.
Rose.
Never. So, right. I decided after the fact that I wanted to take a loan out on my equity. So instead of doing that at the start, I should have just got the valuation done with, these are the renovations I have in mind. What will my property cost? What will my property be valued at after the renovations, which is where they do that calculation. And I didn't do that at start, I did it after the fact. Luckily, I had a fantastic valuer, Leslie Goodfellow or PCS, which I think you used as well.
Yes, it did.
Because we always use Terra, but when you are getting a loan, as a lot of people know, you cannot use the firm that you are purchasing from because it can be considered unbiased as well. So, right, we had the valuation. I had a new valuation done, and then the loan process. Honestly, from there, it was a little bit longer in terms of the back and forth on it because there's a lot involved. But it didn't go through in the end. The one thing I would say that maybe I didn't take into consideration is I thought, you know, okay, I'm going to get a loan and say I want to take a loan for $500,000. They're going to show up and just put $500,000 into my account, right?
Wrong.
Just kidding. That's what someone that's not experienced would think. So what they actually do is you do obviously have to have your deposit amount, which we would use to start your contractor with. And once the contractor started, they do visits to your property to make sure, which makes sense, right? Because I've heard in the past from my clients that they just put the money in their account and they're asking me, they said, well, how do they even know if I did the kitchen? I said, well, that's a very good question. But my mortgage officer, who is fantastic, she showed up at my house and she checked it out. She would come on an evening. She would be there on a Sunday after church with her family in the car. I didn't ask her to do that. But that's just how Sonia rolls. She wanted to get the job done, so that things were done on a Monday. But they come and inspect to make sure that the money that they're giving you is being used towards your renovation. So don't get any brilliant ideas that you're gonna say it's gonna be $500,000 and then you're gonna take that money, spend 100, and think you're gonna be rolling with 400. You are not, sir.
That's about to say, sir.
So yeah.
So all in all, are you happy now with your well, it's still an investment. Are you happy now with your purchase?
I am thrilled. I have a view that I've always wanted. It's the location I always wanted in life to eventually get to.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily I got it at the right time and at the right price, thanks to a really good real estate agent. Oh, Rosie, just kidding, Rosie. Thanks to a really good real estate agent that I got it at the right price. The work I've put into it, I know, and I can see from the valuation that, I will be very well ahead of where I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a home that my child loves. I have 2 dogs that I just need some grass for. But yeah, everything in its time.
Good. So we're just gonna wrap up because I think y'all have other things to do, but Rachel, what is your key takeaway from your whole process?
So I got a bit stressed throughout the process of the interiors because obviously when you buy a property and it's going through a renovation, sometimes you want to show up all the time and see how things are going, and it starts off really good and fast. It's demolition and you're like, just fast moving fast. And then all of a sudden when it comes to the finish is a lot slower. And obviously it's slower because you want things done with excellent craftsmanship and the quality that you expect, right? So
Detail that you expect.
exactly. So while I was rushing, at some points I would pull back and say, maybe I shouldn't rush because then I won't get what I want. And I did run into a couple complications. I did seek advice. I had other contractors come onto my job to look and see, what was going on and if maybe I was being unreasonable, unrealistic.
I was there with a leveler.
Yeah, with a leveler. But one thing that stood out to me, and I always get great advice from Hayden Hutton, is that he told me, I called him one day because I can't even remember what happened. I think it was a tile on a floor that was sticking off of a wall, and I was in a panic because it was a piece of green marble. Anyway, I digress. Champagne. I should have gone Prosecco with that bathroom. So I called Hayden and he said he had a piece of advice to me that he got from someone. And it was, a contractor will give you the quality that you accept. So if you do not accept it, they have to fix it, right? Mm-hmm. So he said, if it's not done to the standard that another contractor or a reasonable party believes that it should be done, then have them fix it. And I would say that one stuck with me because sometimes, we all tend to be like sometimes we're people pleasers and we're like, okay, that's fine. I'll just look at that for the rest of my life. Let me tell you, right? When you see a defect, it is going to stick out like a sore thumb. And every time you pass it, you're going to hate it. So if there's a problem and it's not anything that's unreasonable, voice it with your contractor, be vocal about it, because if you're not, you're going to regret it later down the line. And, and then that just won't be good, because when you invest a lot of money into something, you should really get the best that, you're paying for.
Yeah.
What about you, Rosie? What's your closing remarks?
Well, circling back to you, I would say, I think Rachel spoke about it in the beginning in the podcast. She was really stressed out at the amount of time it was taking to find the right property. And I know this sounds real airy-fairy and whimsical, but sometimes trust the process. And then other times just listen to your agent. There, yeah. So I know you could feel really stressed out. Maybe you looked at 10 properties, you haven't found the right one as yet, but keep looking. You will find the right one for you, and it will work out. but you need to not be as hard on yourself. And yeah, you just need to trust your agent sometimes.
And
Oh, sorry, like, look at that property. So
what's life without a little bit of mayhem?
yeah.
You know? Anyway, thanks for joining us. Hopefully we'll see more of us together and maybe dress differently than each other.
I wore this first. Thank you very much.
I was born first. Have a great day. Bye.